We're going to start out in John chapter 17. John chapter 17 says this. This is Jesus. He says, I pray not that you would take them out of the world, but that you would keep them from evil. I mean, most of the time we want to run from anything bad, anything we don't understand, anything that's contradictory to what we believe or what we want to happen or take place in our life, and we want to run. But Jesus said, God, I pray not that you take them out of it, but that you would keep them from it. So if we got to be in it, how's he going to keep us from it? He's going to tell us. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. I heard this week, and I forget who said it. It might have been Nancy Dufresne, but she said, she was talking about prayer, and we could be all praying together, and a lot of people praying, either in the spirit or different things going on, praying. But she said, somebody told her to keep one ear on what's going on, who's leading the prayer, and keep the other ear open in your spirit. And why are we saying this? Because they are not of the world, even as I'm not of the world. So Jesus' disciples are hearing him pray this for them. God, I pray that you would not take them out of the world, but that you would keep them from evil. And everyone's saying, yeah, keep us from evil. Let's defeat these kingdoms around us. They are not of the world, even as I'm not of the world. I'm not of this world. So how are we going to know this, that we are authorized or we are qualified? Our qualification comes from Jesus, comes from heaven. He's saying they're not of this world, even as I'm not of this world. Verse 17 says this. This is how I ask that you protect them. Sanctify them, set them apart, set them on high, provide for them, keep them through your truth, because your word is truth. Anything happening the rest of this year, and you know what next year is, which I cannot stand every year, election year. This right here is going to prevail, because it seems like everything just breaks loose and all the water starts going like this. Instead of sitting in the pool where it's real calm, everybody's jumping in going, and you're just trying to rest and rocking the water, or you're sitting on the little boat with all your nieces at Big Bear, and they all want to jump at the same time. And you got to swim them all to shore because you don't have any oars. They're all bouncing. Sanctify them through your truth. Your word is truth. How's he going to keep them from evil, even though they're in this world but not of this world? Through the truth. The truth. Sanctify them through the truth. As verse 18, as you have sent me into this world, even so I'm sending them into this world. So our authorization and our qualification doesn't come from man. We're authorized, or we're given authority by him, and we are qualified by him. So we're told to study to show ourselves approved. Doesn't mean that my studying or having a degree makes me qualified. It only helps me to be able to do or enhance what he already qualified me to do through his truth. Jesus sent them into the world, and he said, even those that believe on me after them, those I send, those that I believe that they believe on after me, they will also. And he said, go into all the world, preach the gospel. I'm sending them. As you have sent me into this world, even so I have sent them also into this world. So if you believe that you're not qualified for your job, or a job that you do not have the written qualification for, if he's sending you, he authorized you, he qualified you, and therefore you'll step into this thing and you say, I don't know anything about this, but he gives you wisdom how to do it. I didn't go one school about computers. I didn't go to one school about email. I didn't go to one school about internet. I didn't go to one school about networking. I didn't go to one school about phone service. Yet, for 22 years, I've been doing it. Who does it? He does. I don't have a clue. And if I had to sit down and tell somebody about it, I wouldn't understand it at all. As you've sent me into the world, even so I have also sent you into the world. And for their sakes I sanctify myself, that they also might be sanctified through the truth. The truth is what sets us free. The truth is what establishes us. The truth is where we get our authorization and our qualification. It comes from the truth. So if you feel like you don't have enough, he gave it to you. Therefore, you have enough. Sabrina and Kelvin, if you'll do something for me, or for God, will you come up here and sit? And you'll see why in a moment. Over in these seats right here, in the front row. Sanctify them through your truth. Your word is truth. Matthew chapter 4. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted there by the devil. For 40 days and 40 nights, this is after he was baptized. He fasted and became very hungry. And during that time, the devil came and said to him, if you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become loaves of bread. But Jesus told him, no. The scriptures say, or it is written, people do not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. He's establishing himself right there, and he's saying, this is where I feed. And I feed nowhere else. I feed at Jesus. I feed at God, my Father. That's the table I eat from. And I will not accept any other. I feed at the Lord's table. And he says, I will not do these things, even though he had the power to. I will not, for it is written, man must live by not only by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. What is it that sanctifies us and keeps us from evil? The truth. What is the truth? His word is truth. And he says we can't live by bread alone, or by natural means, or by our natural tendencies, or by our natural qualifications, or our natural authorizations, or the things that we accomplish. We can't live by that alone, because it's all empty if it doesn't have him. Then the devil took him to the holy city Jerusalem, to the highest point of the temple, and said, if you are the Son of God, jump off. For the scriptures say he will order his angels to protect you, and they will hold you up with their hands so you won't even hurt your foot on a stone. But Jesus responded, the scriptures, or it is written, also it says, you must not test the Lord your God, or tempt the Lord your God. Here's why I'm eating. You tell me to do this, but this is what my meal says. My meal says this. This whole next year, just prepare. This is what the world says. This is what he says. And I don't have to believe what you believe, and I don't have to conform to what you believe. I can believe and still love you. I can believe and still be protected from you and your wicked ways. I don't have to be you and you don't have to be me, but he says, this is where I eat. And that's what we're saying when what is true in a situation or a circumstance, or when sickness attacks my bodies, this is where I eat from. This is the table that my bread comes from. It's from God. This is the truth that sets me apart from all of this, and this is why I say what he says. You must worship. Then he says, the next one, the devil took him to the peak of the mountain and showed him, he says, I will give it all to you if you kneel down and worship me. Because it was his. It's his to give. But Jesus, and he said, get out of here, Satan, for the scriptures say you must worship the Lord your God, and him only you will serve. Everything tempted him. It was real. Or if it wasn't real, it wouldn't have been a temptation. He could have given him all of that. And it all could have happened. But he's saying, this is where I eat from. And when he said, this is who I eat from, and I'm not tasting anything that you're sending this way, the devil went away, and angels came and took care of Jesus. The devil went away when he said, this is where I eat from. This is where I remember what my meal was and what I heard at church Sunday. This is what I heard, and this is what I heard him say on the inside of my spirit, and I'm going to do it. And because of that, the devil went away, and angels came and took care of Jesus. Messengers, aren't they all messengers? Do they still work today? Is there any scripture in your Bible that says, and this happened on the day that Jesus went to heaven and all the angels went away, and he said, you guys go into the world and be by yourselves, and I'll come and help you with my spirit every now and then. Just do it on your own. They're still sent on our behalf. Angels. And who took care of him? Where he eats from. Angels came and took care of Jesus. Will not angels come and take care of you? Yeah. Do you always see him? No. But I'm sure if God would open up your eyes to that right now, you probably see angels standing with me right now. The devil went away and angels came and took care of Jesus. God has more than what the enemy has. I'll just read from King James here. He said, but man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. And the devil left him, and behold, angels came and ministered unto him. Whose table do you eat from? If I get a good meal somewhere, I'm going to tell someone about it. Right? You know, I get a good meal, I'll tell someone about it. But I have to establish myself and say, this is where I eat from. I'm not eating and I'm not partaking of somewhere else. And if somebody acts differently, then that's fine. But we have to be the ones that be a light in this world. And where we have that light, it's from him. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And that light is in him. John chapter 4, verse 27. He sanctifies us by his truth. His word is truth, and we can't live by bread alone, these natural means of living, but we must have the word of God in our lives. John chapter 4, verse 27 through 38. Just then his disciples came back, and they were shocked to find him talking to a woman, but none of them had the nerve to ask, what do you want with her, or why are you talking with her? The woman left her water jar beside the well, ran back to the village, telling everyone, come and see a man who told me everything I did. Could he possibly be the Messiah? So the people came streaming from the village to see him. Meanwhile, the disciples were urging Jesus, Rabbi, eat something. But Jesus replied, I have a kind of food that you know nothing about. And they said, did someone bring him food while we were gone? The disciples asked each other. Then Jesus explained, my nourishment comes from doing the will of God who sent me and from finishing his work. You know the saying, 4 months between planting and harvest, but I say, wake up and look around. The fields are already ripe for the harvest. The harvesters are paid good wages, and the fruit they harvest is people brought into eternal life. What joy awaits both the planter and the harvester alike. You know the saying, one plants and another harvests, and it's true. I sent you to harvest where you didn't plant. Others had already done the work, and now you will get to gather the harvest. I have food that you know not of, and my food is to do the will of the Father. Well, how did he get that food? He must have been sitting here. He must have been sitting here. They must have been sitting close to get the food, and you'll see it here in a minute. They must have been sitting close to get it. You got to be close to him. In our relationships, to get fed, we got to be close. This message is titled, The Need for Feed. The need for feed. We got to feed. If you want to lead, you got to feed. And you can't lead if you don't feed. And you can't feed unless you lead. And that's why he's brought you two up front. Because in your eyes, he don't want you being a back row Joe. What you put into yourselves is become made known unto everyone. Not just here, but in heaven. And because you guys honored the word, and you continue to do what he says, and you continue to put him first, his kingdom, all these other things will come chasing you down. Blessing after blessing, blessing after blessing. But most importantly, the most greatest blessing that you have is his voice in your life. It's him talking to you. So he's asking you to sit up front. Sit up front here today sit up front from now on, but whenever you go somewhere and you're feeding from God, be a front row. It doesn't matter what other people look like. It doesn't matter what other people are looking at. You picture yourself, I'm one that's going to be receiving from him that I can turn around and give to the next person. The kind of food that you know nothing about. John chapter 6, we read this earlier, but it comes back to this. Verse 1. After these things, Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias, and a great multitude followed him, because they saw his miracles which he did on them that were diseased. Jesus went unto the mountain, and he sat with his disciples. He sat with his disciples. Down with his disciples all around him. They were up front. They were up. Get out of anything in your mind that's saying these seats right here cause something else to happen. What he's telling them to believe in their heart, I'm up front. I want to be so close right here that I'm getting everything he has for me. And nothing else is going to distract me because I need to feed. I need to feed. I need to hear what he's saying to me, because all these other voices, they cannot be the main feed. The main feed is the main feed. And anything else is just little compared to what gives me life, what gives me light, what gives me prosperity, what gives me health and healing to all my flesh. It's feed. The need to feed from him. I must have this relationship with him. What is going to sanctify us and protect us in these coming days and these last times? It's becoming the one that stays with him and the need to feed with him, that I'm constantly in communication with him. See, how can you do be a preacher and supposed to be praying and doing your studies and everything, and be working sometimes full-time hours? How does it work? Everybody else out here, the ones that are serving, they have jobs, but how does that work? You have a constant feed going on the inside of you. It's called the Holy Ghost. And I could be driving to an appointment in Cleveland, Ohio, driving the car, sitting in the middle of traffic, and communing and sitting here talking and feeding this close, even closer than they are sitting there, feeding with him and hearing things. Sometimes I might not respond to you, but I'm hearing something else. I'm hearing another voice, not hearing voices. I'm hearing another voice that I'm choosing to listen to as priority. So if I don't answer you right away, that might be why, because I'm hearing something else, and I got to tune my ear to it, because it's giving me life, and it's setting me apart, and it's sanctifying me and setting me apart from this world and all the evil in it, but it's feeding me on the inside this sustenance that gives me life, the spirit man that needs fed. Because without the spirit man, this body just falls to the ground. The spirit gives life. The flesh profits nothing. The most important relationship that we have is with him. And that's why he's sitting with his disciples, this closeness, this relationship that you have. And that's why we can have glory lunches. We can be sitting in lunch and talking with Pastor Lonnie, talking with Linda, whoever, talking with people, and God show up in the whole room. It feels like the whole room's looking at you and you not care one bit, because something's coming out of their mouth. And Pastor Lonnie complimented all of you. He said from the front row to the back row, they're all eating. They're all gone. I could feel a draw from every single person from front to back. I could feel it. He said, keep doing what you're doing. Keep going where you're going. He is happy and he's pleased. And he says, God is well pleased with all of you. Jesus sat there with his disciples in the Passover. A feast of the Jews was near. And when Jesus lifted up his eyes and saw a great company come, he said unto Philip, where are we going to buy this bread? Those closest to him. Where are we going to buy this bread? Where are we going to get this money for the parking lot? How are we going to pay off the church? How are we going to pay off the roof? How are we going to redo a whole gymnasium into a sanctuary in just a couple months? How's all this going to take place? And he said, 200 penny worth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said unto him, there's a lad here which has 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes. But what are they among so many? But what are they? What is just a few people in a church going to be able to do with debt on a roof and no parking lot ever being paved? And Jesus said, make the men sit down, and there was much grass in the place. So the men sat down. He told them, make the men sit down, in a number of about 5,000. So those close to him, he said, do this. Those close to him, he said, do this. They turned and did. They're close to him. They turned. Here's me, my position with him. And he says, take what I'm telling you today and say to them. Or he says, here's the scriptures I want you to do. I want you to minister upon. You get up there and you begin to read them, and the power of my word's going to start coming out. And then the river of God, the river of life coming out of you from the inside of your spirit is going to turn and say, all these things that are coming out that aren't even in my notes. Make the men sit down. Jesus took the loaves. He gave thanks. And when he took the loaves, and he took the word, and he took what he received, where did he get it? He got it. They gave it to him. But where's he saying it came from? He's giving thanks. He didn't say, hey, little boy, I'm giving thanks. He gave thanks because God provided it. And he's saying, Father, the table I feed from, the need to feed comes from him. If this is the place I need to feed from, that's where I'm going to give thanks. I knew if I gave my grandma thanks, she was going to feed me. I knew if I gave the cooks at Tear Out of East Preston thanks, they were going to give me extra helping. I knew at Preston High, if I gave them thanks, they were going to give me a little bit more. They give me extra pepperoni roll. They give me a little bit more to put some extra pepperoni on it. Open it up and put that vegetable soup in the pepperoni roll. Man, they just piled on. Extra meatloaf, extra oranges, whatever you needed. They will give you extra because you're giving thanks, because you're acknowledging where you're getting your food from. And when you say thanks to God, look what you've done, God, in this place. Look what you've done in the children's ministry. Look what you're doing in the teens. Look what you've done. God, thank you so much. He gives you more, and we're acknowledging, I feed from you. The Dow, the stock market, it's going on, but your kingdom will never end. I feed from you, and you're my great supply. I thank you. And being that close, what's going on in the inside. And he gave thanks. Then what did he do? He turned and he gave it to the ones that had the need to feed. The ones that had the need to feed. It didn't say the disciples just began hogging down and then they turned and fed. They took what Jesus gave them. They took the word that Jesus gave them because they were close. They're close. They're close up here. They're not looking at everything. They're close and they're getting what Jesus has given them. And then they turn and they go out to their workplace. They go out to their college. They go first to their family and friends. They go to a restaurant. They take what he gives them and they turn and they distribute it to them. The disciples to them that were set down, likewise of the fishes as much as they would. And they began to give, and each time they took a bite, there was more. Each time they handed out, there was more. They would take out of the basket, the never-ending, gob-stopping basket of fish and loaves, and it just kept coming out. They did not run out, and they took and they gave. And they took and they gave because they knew where they were feeding from. They knew who's the one that's feeding them. They had their eyes fixed on him, and they took from what he gave them, and they're feeding. This is why the few, and I say few because I just know a few, that return their word unto him, they're the ones that see the results. When you pray and you say, you said that you're my healer. And I'm telling everyone, that's where my bread comes from. Healing is the children's bread. You said, this is what I believe, and I'm telling everybody, this is where I get my sustenance from. So you said it, I'm going to say this is where I eat at. And they go and they tell people. And he brings it to them. I identify and I say, this is where I eat from, and I turn and give. And I turn and give. And I turn and give to the people in my life wherever I'm at. I say, this is what I got from him. And so those that honor his word like you two are doing, those that go back and listen to what's being said on a Sunday morning. Pastor used to say to us, you're accountable for this word. And we'd be like, man, that's kind of harsh, you know. And Pastor would kind of throw out some stuff and be like, what was said last week? And the people are like, I don't remember that. Maybe one or two people be like, such and such verse, or complete the sentence, and they're like, somebody was paying attention, but the rest of you all. This isn't about listening to my message. It's about the need to feed. What is he saying to you? And when you're getting this, he's ministering to each of you something different. It'll be a main theme, the need to feed, but he's ministering to each of you something different because he knows what you have need of. He knows the diet that you need at the place in your life that you need it. And he knows the medicine that you need. And his word is medicine. In verse 12, it says this: when they were filled, they ate. They all ate. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. So when everyone here and watching online, and we eat today, I'm eating right now, we're feeding from him, you're feeding from him, we're all enjoying this meal as he's giving it to us. It's all coming down. It's all coming down the head. It's all coming down, and we're giving it. We're feeding. All of us are feeding. And he said, now gather the leftovers, that nothing is wasted. How do you go back and get the leftovers? Because you can go back and not see the 6 scriptures or 7 scriptures, whatever, after these that I have prepared. You can be already feeding on it for next week before I even say it out of my mouth. Because who's the one that gives me the feed to lead? And you could come in next week, and this is how it happened to me all the time. I'll be saying, what's coming next? What's coming next? And I'm trying to guess what pastor's going to speak next. I'm trying in my spirit, what is he going to say next? What is pastor going to say next? What's coming next, God? I want to know what's coming next. And feed off that and have the leftovers already, that nothing is wasted. And then go back and listen to it again. Listen to it again. And this is why scriptures that I don't sit down and read and memorize all the time, they come out of my spirit because of hours and hours and hours of listening to men and women of God that speak over years of my life and continue to hear it. Play it back and continue to loop it. Play it back, continue to loop it. Play it back, continue to loop it. Over and over again. I got to go to the Challenge Academy this past weekend, and I shared an experience with them as a freshman. I was at Kingwood, and I threw a touchdown pass. Those of you might have heard this before, but I'm going to share it. I shared with them, I throw this touchdown pass, and I always like to go back and watch the game film. My aunt had one of them big VHS recorders, and she would come to my game and record them. And I would go back and watch. And I could hear my mom yelling, and she'd say, get him, Jeff, get him, Jeff, get him, Jeff. Well, I threw this touchdown pass. I could hear this voice saying, yeah, woo, yeah, woo. Bobby's streaking down the sidelines for a touchdown. Yeah, woo, just yelling. And I keep rewinding. Who is that? Who is that? And I kept rewinding. I don't know that voice. And I had to keep rewinding. And after a long time and hearing the conversations around, I finally figure out that was my dad. And when you don't realize what your dad or your mom sounds like when they're cheering for you, you begin to loop it. And I rewound that thing. And it didn't matter how tight that spiral was or what it looked like going down the sidelines. I wanted to hear what's being said. I wanted to hear that voice saying, yeah, get him. Woo, and getting excited because they're excited about me. This is what it's like feeding with God. Because he's excited about you. He's excited where you're going. He's excited what you're doing, how you're being faithful to your kids and how you're being faithful to teach them. He's excited about your future that he's prepared for you, for all of us. But those that apply it and they say, I want the leftovers. I want to gather it all so nothing is wasted. I want every single bit out of this message. I'll go back and listen to it again. And this is why many years ago when I hear a man of God come in and he look at me and he say, Joshua it shall be. Joshua is a man of war. When Moses went out, Joshua protected the people. Joshua would go fight, and nothing shall come against this house because Joshua is in this house. And he said, promotion doesn't come from the east and west, but it comes from above. God promotes in the anointing, and increase it shall be to thee because your heart's right, Joshua. 2009. Because I drove to work and I listened to that over and over again. Because I wanted to hear what God was saying, that there's no leftovers, nothing is wasted. I want every single bit of that word, what he said. That's why you can listen to the same message over and over again and still get more out of it, because it's not ever going to wring dry, because his river doesn't run dry. It keeps ringing out, it keeps ringing out, and you go get it. You can go keep listening to it over and over again, go back to old messages over and over again, and you keep ringing out, and you get more and more, because nothing is wasted. Because you have a need to feed. This relationship, a need to feed with God. Communing with him. Because nothing satisfies like the Father up there cheering for you, saying, I told you, Ed, you're healed. Keep believing, brother. It's coming. It keeps going. It keeps going. Keep fighting, Dolores. Keep fighting. You stand firm in the faith. You keep fighting that good fight of faith, because my word will not fail you. It never will fail you. Keep lifting your hands. Keep praising me, because your victory, I've already went ahead and fought for you. Your victory is in my word. Woo, 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 woo. And you just keep rewinding. That's what he said. Woo! That's what he said. Woo! That's what he said. Keep going. Woo! You believe in healing? Woo! Yeah, you believe it? Yeah, woo! Get it. Jump up there and get it. Don't you stop. Don't you quit. Hallelujah. I got to go watch Eli play baseball the other day, and it was awesome to watch him. But to see what could have happened if you didn't believe. And as I'm watching him out there playing ball and having joy and just having fun and just being an example, I'm like, God, what could have been? He could have not believed you and been sitting on the bench and just hurt or injured. But now he's out there enjoying himself and succeeding. And God's saying, woo, woo, somebody believe me. Nothing remained left, or nothing be lost. You can go back and get it all. You keep eating that meal. It's not going to run out. You know, you scrape the plate, or what my uncle used to do, he'd take that last buckwheat cake and he'd sop it and he'd roll it. And he'd roll the whole buckwheat cake, one buckwheat cake, no syrup, nothing on it. He'd roll it and he'd wipe it. Wipe the gravy and wipe it. Wipe it. Wipe it. Wipe it. Cut another piece off, wipe it. And I'm watching him do this. Come on, Uncle Dole, what is this? This is crazy stuff. Wipe the plate. Now, I mean, that baby's shining like it was just washed. But he got every bit of sauce, every bit of sop, every bit of hamburger gravy, sausage gravy, every bit of onion, every piece of garlic, all that came up out there. He got it all. That nothing be lost or nothing wasted, because he has a need to feed. And it won't be long. It'll be Buckwheat Festival time. You get your feed bag on. You go over, eat and eat and eat. Verse 13, therefore they gathered them together, filled 12 baskets with fragments of 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above unto them that had eaten. They ended up, after eating, 5,000 people and more eating, started with this much, ended up with this much, and they all were still full. That's how God is. And you can get in there and you can get all the food you want. There's nothing that you have need of that he doesn't have a supply for. There is so much more. You could write this down. There's so much more than what you've ever asked. There is so much more to be sopped up on that plate, and you haven't even tried, and you just sent the cakes back. There is nothing that you don't have need of that he won't provide. And there's so much more to have than what you've had. So much more. Not just in these natural things. There's so much more wisdom to come from him. There's so much more life to come from him. Walking with Jesus. As Enoch, by faith, he walked with God, and he was gone. He was gone. He was that close to God, he was gone. Walked that close with God, he was gone. That close. Which remained over and above unto them that had eaten. Are we experiencing over and above? We can. But when anybody say that you're experiencing over and above all that you've been satisfied, has anybody been eating that good? Going to. I mean, I eat good, but I'm not satisfied. And he said, even after you're satisfied, there'd be 12 baskets left over. And what do you do with those 12 baskets he gives you? As Pastor George says, my motivation for accumulation is distribution. Pastor George Pearson says that. My motivation, this is why people will get mad, why you talk about money? Because our motivation for this is not to eat all of it. Our motivation for accumulation is so I can get everything I feed from his table and I can turn around and distribute it. And I can say, come up here and sit. Because you can turn and distribute to others. Because those that are faithful with the little things, they'll be faithful with much. And that's why you'll increase, and that's why you're still increasing, because you're faithful with little, and he gives you much. And he'll make you ruler over much. And it'll keep happening, and it'll keep happening. And those that want that, you feed from him. You keep going to him. You don't settle for less than God's best. Keep eating. I want the whole thing. I want the whole roll. I want to roll that last cake up. I'm going to get an extra couple cakes. And they're like, you've had too much already. No, I want the last cake because I'm going to wipe all of this. Because you know that last little piece of hamburger and that last little piece of gravy could be the meal that's going to sustain you through the next storm. Could be the one word that you hear about a situation, that one piece that you eat, that you go away with and say, and then all of a sudden something comes and you're like, I already ate at the master's table and I already have enough energy and I already have enough wisdom to conquer this thing right now. I'm stepping over it. It don't even faze me. From one bite of energy, of strength, of life, of wisdom, you know what one answer is? One answer. Then we're all seeking, like, why is my blood pressure doing this? And by the way, it's doing well. Thank you all for the prayers. Why is it doing this? Or why am my body acting this way? That one last bite, you keep going back and listening to over and over again what God's saying. That one last bite that you get from him, from feeding at his table, could be the thing that says, oh, this thing, this one little tiny speck, a decision you keep making, change it all. And it was from what was left on the plate that everybody else sends back. And there must be many leftovers because he must be concerned about it, because he says, clean your plate. And that's why I clean my plate. When you clean your plate at the school, you get more. I finished this. Look what I did, God. I finished what you gave me. What Jesus say? My motivation or my will, my meal is to do the will of my Father and to finish his work. What you put on my plate, I'll finish it. I'll take it all. Can I have seconds? Can I have thirds? I don't even know where I'm going to put all of this at, Lord, but I know on the inside, this physical body is limited. But the spirit man is unlimited. Will you give me more? Jesus said, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Feed the spirit. You have a need to feed at the Father's table. And if you want to lead, you better be feeding. Why do I want to lead? I just want to feed. Well, go ahead. Then you'll starve. Because if it's just about you and never anybody else, it'll go to waste. Bunch of waste laying around. Deuteronomy 28, verse 1. Oh, you're breaking out old school, Old Testament. We're going to Old Testament. Deuteronomy 28, verse 1. What table do you eat from? It's the Lord's table. I have a need to feed in this relationship. I have a need to feed to get what only he can provide. Nobody else has cooking like his. I mean, somebody could cook buckwheat cakes like my grandma, but you don't always get them right, but sometimes you get it right. Some people, and now they pass down? The recipe, right? And they have recipe books, and some churches sell recipe cookbooks for the church, and they go through the whole family cookbook. They go through all of them. They provide recipes. And what is on those recipes? Words. Words. Saying, you do this, it produces this. You follow this, it produces this. You follow this one, and you're going to be wanting to clean it up at the end because it's going to have so much goodness at the end of it. You follow this, it has words. It has words. If you will fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow his commands, his word, what sanctifies us and sets us apart, his word, fully follow his commands I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all nations on the earth. Next verse. And all these blessings will come upon you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. If you do what he says. If you're feeding at his table, because he said, you're not mixing. You can't take part of this out here and take part of this, because this is another thing that they talk about, the children being tossed to and fro. That's why he gives apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for that we all come to the unity of the body of Christ, that we all come to the unity of the faith, that we all are built up and encouraged. Why? That we would know the truth. That we would know the truth. And all these blessings will come upon you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. You will be blessed in the city and blessed in the country. If you obey. This is what he's telling them. If you obey. Now, he's the one that made us access for this. And we'll see it. If you obey, you'll be blessed in the city and blessed in the country. The fruit of your womb will be blessed, and the crops of your land, and the young of your livestock, the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks, your basket and your kneading trough will be blessed. Overflowing so I can distribute. My motivation for accumulation is distribution. I want to be so, because not just because I'm pastor, but I want to be so close to God that I could turn around to my wife and say, this is what he said. And be confident about it. And not be like, oh man, she's going to think I'm nuts. If I say this, she's going to think I'm nuts. He said this. And when I say it, his power will be on that word for her to believe it. And she'll be like, that's God. Because when it's me saying, we need this camper, we need this side by side, we need this house, we need this house by the lake, and we need a beach house. And she's like, yeah, I said about her going, yeah, that's me. Just throwing out stuff everywhere. Pick one, slap it on the wall. Your basket and your kneading trough will be blessed. Where does it come from? The blessing comes from the Lord. The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he has no sorrow with it. Next, you will be blessed when you come in and blessed when you go out. When I leave and I go, when I come in and I go out, I'm blessed. Where am I feeding that from? Where am I getting it from? Him. Because I'm so close to him. I'm so close to him. I keep bumping into him. That's Keith Moore. I keep bumping into him. That's it. If Jesus would stop, I bump into him. That's what Keith Moore would say all the time. I'm so close to him. Wherever he's leading me, I will follow. Whatever he's feeding me, I will swallow. He will give it to me, and I will take it in. Whatever he's giving me, I'm going to get close to him, and I'll say, I need that thing. I need that one word that gives me life. I need wisdom about this, an application of this wisdom, be able to do what I need to do. God, I need your word. I have a need to feed. This will get you through it all. Kids, it'll get you through any test in life. It'll get you through anything in school, any class in school. You get close to him, all that wisdom comes flying through him. The Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee in 7 different directions. Nothing's going to harm you. This coming year, no matter what's going on in this world, who do we feed on? We feed on him. Where do we get our supply from? It's from him. Well, it doesn't make sense in the natural. It doesn't have to, because what you believe will overcome the natural thinking any day of the week. In here, I'm being fed. It will overcome, and this will line up. It's called transformed, being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Being transformed by the renewing of your mind, not conformed which means whatever says going along, I will go along with it. I'm being transformed because I'm hearing and I'm feeding in a different way. The Lord grant the enemies who rise up against you, they will flee from you in 7 directions. Verse 8, the Lord will send a blessing on your barns. Sound familiar? The Lord will send a blessing on your barns and everything you put your hand to. The Lord, your God, will bless you in the land he is giving you. Whatever you put your hand to, whatever you're doing, whatever you turn and take from him and you turn to put your hand to, he will bless it. He'll bless your garden. He'll bless what you do. He'll bless your relationships. He will bless it. He said it. The Lord will establish you as his holy people, as he promised you on an oath. If you keep the commands of the Lord your God and walk in obedience to him, then all the peoples of the earth will see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they will fear you. The Lord will grant you abundant prosperity in the fruit of your womb, the young of your livestock, and the crops of your ground, your business in the land he swore to your ancestors to give to you. Verse 12, the Lord will open up the heavens, the storehouse of his bounty, to send rain on your land in season and to bless all the work of your hands. You will lend to many nations, but you will not borrow from one of them. The Lord will make you the head and not the tail. He'd bring you up front. He's getting close. He went in, he left all the disciples out there, all the family members, but he took with him Peter, James, and John. Imagine those 3 got to be in on some of the greatest miracles that other people didn't get to because they're I'm close. I feed from here. This is where I get my feed from. The Lord will make you the head, not the tail. If you pay attention to the commands of the Lord your God, and that I give you this day, and carefully follow them, you will always be at the top and never at the bottom. Do not turn aside from any commands I give you today to the right or to the left, following other gods and serving them. Who do you feed from? We all have a need to feed. We're going to leave here and feed on something. We're going to leave here, go to a restaurant, go to somebody's house and feed on something. We're going to feed on something naturally, but spiritually something's going to be going on. And if I don't answer you at the table at the restaurant, I might not be feeling good, but possibly I might be hearing something else. Because there's a need to feed. And I'm not going to say I'm going to be being rude to people, but if you look at me sometimes, like, man, he's checked out. I might be checked out in the natural, in my spirit man antenna was like, feed, feed, feed. I don't want to be a weirdo to anyone. How is Jesus going to sanctify us and set us apart? Through his truth. Put that back up there, John 17. Sanctify them through thy truth. Your word is truth. Jesus said, I have food that you know not of. This is why I can work. This is why I can sleep well. This is why I can rest. This is why I can minister and come up here, because believe me, it ain't Jeff Anderson, because it's way beyond what Jeff Anderson can do, because it's the power of God's anointing upon what he placed in my life to call to do what he called me to do. And I'm saying, here I am, Father, doing what you said to do. I want to finish your work and do what you say to do. Now, can I have seconds? Can I have thirds? Can I have fourths? Because my motivation for all of this, getting so close to you because I love you, because you love me first, I want to be so close to you, and I want to share this love with everybody around me. I want the world to experience this love. I want my son and my wife to experience this relationship so close to you that I'm so close I get to have every personal experience with you. That no one else is hearing what I'm hearing, because personally we have a relationship that no one else has. They have their own. Because there's never been another Jeff Anderson in this world, and there never will be another Jeff Anderson like me. There never has, there's not now, and there never will be. The same unto you all, because he knows every hair on your head. He knows you by name. He's called you by name for such a time as this. He put you in this world from the time you were born to now. He knew you before you even formed in your mother's womb. Psalm 139, read it in the Passion Translation. It's a lot of words, a lot of details. You know how that is, a lot of details. But when you're going through it and you're hearing his voice, he's saying, I know your words before you even speak them. I know your thoughts before you even think them. I'm that close to you, Jeff Anderson, that I know what you're thinking. I know what you're doing. I'm here for you. Just turn and say, feed me. I want to eat. So today is the day of salvation. Jason, if you play that song, I Speak Jesus, you'll just find it. Today is the day of salvation, and as we're closing the service, you and I have a decision to make. Where are we going to eat? And no one can say, I don't know where you want to go. I see some of the faces like, I don't know where you want to go. It's up to you. If you leave up your spiritual responsibility and you say, it's up to you where I'm going to eat. I know I'm the pastor, but it's up to you where I'm going to eat. It's hard to tell where you're going to eat from, what kind of meal you're going to get, and it's probably not going to satisfy, and you'll be like, why did I buy this?